Welcome back. We are now exactly 1 month away from a possible government shutdown on December 20th. Deja vu. Speaker Johnson pushing for a continuing resolution which would extend the deadline into early 2025 and Trump's second term. Republican Ohio Congressman Max Miller coming out against the plan. He's urging Congress to pass a full-year deal so Trump can quickly move his agenda forward and not be slowed down by a fight over funding. House Freedom Caucus Chairman Andy Harris wants to attach the SAVE Act to the government funding bill. The SAVE Act, of course, requires voters to provide proof of citizenship when voting in federal elections. Joining me now is Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles. He's a member of the House Financial Services Committee and the House Freedom Caucus. Great to see you, Congressman. Thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Do you support putting the SAVE Act with a funding bill?
Oh, absolutely. Now, the question is what will the Senate do with it? And, you know, as we go forward into January, look, the first 100 days of the Trump administration are going to be incredibly important. So I do think we need a spending plan, a number that reflects Trump's priorities so that when we get into those first 100 days, we're debating policy, not fiscal numbers.
Well, what are you going to do to get to a point where you're not going from bridge to bridge with these continuing resolutions? Will this ever change?
Well, you know, we've got to get back into the appropriations process. And so I think Mike Johnson, the House in general, are committed to that process. The question is how do we get past December 20th? How do we start the new year so that we hit the ground running? And again, so we don't get bogged down into some of the policy and financial fights that you've seen over the last 2 years. We've got to move forward. And look, Donald Trump wants to move swiftly. He has a big plan. He has a big agenda. And part of that, the first step, the building block of it, is making sure that we get into this first fiscal year with a plan to move forward financially.
Well, President-elect Trump is building out his administration. He's tapped Trump transition team co-chair and Cantor Fitzgerald CEO Howard Lutnick as the Commerce Secretary. He'll be partly responsible for overseeing trade and tariffs. Give us your thoughts on this pick and about Trump's agenda. Will it have an immediate impact on the economy in terms of extending those tax cuts and instituting tariffs in place?
Well, for those of you that don't know much about Mr. Howard Lutnick, you know, he's someone who's faced adversity in his life. He was an innovator in the trading space. After 9/11, much of his firm was lost in that tragedy. And of course, because of the innovation under his leadership, they were able to move forward. He's been committed to the families that lost so much during 9/11. And so what you have is someone who's a fighter, he's an innovator, and he has a vision for business and the country that I think aligns with President Trump. And so as you look for that person who's going to, you know, fight for American business, who's going to promote our country and be an innovator in the commerce space, that's Howard Lutnick. I think it's a great pick. I had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with him when he was in Nashville a few months ago, and I was really impressed.
Well, do you think that Trump is going to get these nominations confirmed by the Senate?
Well, I think that the President of the United States has made it clear he needs to move swiftly as we go into this new era under Donald Trump, and he should use every mechanism that he has available to him to get his nominations passed. You know, you look at the Justice Department that has been weaponized against the American people. You have Matt Gaetz that's been nominated, and look, President Trump is committed to Gaetz and getting him through that process, whatever that may look like.
So we're using every tool, meaning recess appointments?
If that's what it requires, yes.
I think Mitch McConnell said he was against that.
Well, you know, I think what you've seen over the last few days is the President Trump has been making calls to the U.S. Senate. Matt Gaetz and other nominees have been calling the senators, making their case to them to get through the nomination process. And so, again, I think there's a lot of work to be done between now and Christmas as we go into the new year, and I'm confident that President Trump will get his nominations through.
Well, President Trump is also inheriting a Middle East on fire, potentially the start of World War III. I mean, Russia is accusing Ukraine of launching U.S.-supplied long-range missiles into Russian territory after President Biden gave Zelensky the green light to use them. You posted this on X. On his way out the door after both Putin and Zelensky stated they were ready for peace under President Trump, Biden is engaging in a proxy war with Russia through Ukraine. Tell us more, Congressman. Are you saying that the Biden administration is creating havoc as they're walking out the door?
Well, it would seem that way. And look, President Trump has made it clear that he's not there to start wars, or he's not coming into the administration to start wars. He's there to end wars. And so there's the opportunity to look, the world is on fire, whether it's in Africa, Haiti, Israel, of course, Ukraine and Russia. The bullies of the world know that Biden is weak, and they've used this as an opportunity to flex their muscle and advance their own goals at the expense of the people around them. President Trump wants to put an end to this. And look, a secure world, a peaceful world is great for everyone, whether it be commerce, whether you're poor, whether you're rich, or anywhere in between. And we've got to put an end to these endless wars and get back to the idea, let's let free markets prevail, let's move forward. And I think what Biden is doing is escalating a situation that we finally have a peace and opportunity for peace and a window for peace, and he's doing everything he can to undermine it.
Yeah, I mean, Mehek Cook, jump in here, because it is somewhat baffling that we get a message from Russia, the foreign minister there, saying they want to reset with the United States. We got that just, 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And then a week later, Biden, gives the go-ahead to Ukraine to use these long-range missiles inside Russia.
Well, I have to say, this is very intentional from the Biden administration. He has less than a month before President Trump takes the White House. So what he's going to do is create turmoil, division, and chaos. And as we're looking at World War III, I have to go back and ask the congressman, what are we going to do during these recess appointments? Because at the end of the day, we have to have it. Republicans and Democrats have always done recess appointments in the past when we've had these types of issues. Are members in your party, the Republican Party, willing to call on the Senate and help the president and help these nominees get their appointments during recess? Because again, Bill Clinton, Obama, President Reagan, you name these presidents on both sides. So we need to let the American people know this has happened regardless of who's been in office. But I haven't seen Republican members raise their hand and say, I'm going to call the Senate and help. Are you willing to do that?
Well, I can't speak for the other members, but I, for one, am willing to help. I have been helping because, again, we're entering into a new era. And at a time when President Biden is escalating a conflict in Europe that could really spiral out of control. And again, with the backdrop of Russia saying, hey, let's do a reset here. And so we've got to move swiftly. We don't have time to have these petty arguments in the U.S. Senate when we've got to confirm these nominees and we've got to move forward. I think there's a tremendous opportunity to instill strength, peace through strength. That's what President Trump did in his first term. That's what we're going to have to do in his second term. And we've got to support our allies out there that are advocating for freedom, like Israel, like Taiwan, again, who want to put commerce over conflict. And when you have individuals like Putin who is, look, they've had enough, like they've had 3 years of war, they're done with it, let's move forward.
Mm-hmm. Congressman, we're just getting Target earnings out, and it looks like it's weaker than expected. We'll send it over to Cheryl in a second. But who do you want to see? Let's get to Cheryl right now, because the stock is trading down almost 7%. $1.85, Cheryl, versus an estimate of $2.30 a share.
It's a rough quarter for Target, Maria, absolutely. So adjusted earnings per share coming in at $1.85. That was a big miss. We were looking for $2.30. That's a big hit for Target. Also, if you look at revenue, $25.67 billion, that was also weaker than expected. So that's the headlines. But look, the comp sales, it fell 1.9%. The company had told us that the range was 0 to 2%. Comp sales down 1.9%. Now, digital comp sales jumped 10.8%. You could say that was a positive, but the store traffic is the biggest issue here. And this is not the same report that we got, Maria, from Walmart yesterday that you covered, because it's a very different story. And also on the call, are they going to be cutting prices like they were expected? But again, not getting the numbers in. Big miss for Target. CEO Brian Cornell obviously is going to have a lot to frankly answer to on the call. Maria, back to you.
All right. Thanks very much, Cheryl. Again, this is a big miss, as Cheryl just told us, on Target earnings here and revenue. Earnings coming in at $1.85 a share versus an estimate of $2.30 a share. Revenue coming in at $25.6 billion versus an estimate of $25.89 billion. Comp store sales were down. They were expected to be up. They were down 1.9%. They were expected to be up 1.4%. Digital comp sales were expected to be up 5.2%. In fact, that was better than expected with the move, as you just heard. Real quick, this stock is at the lows of the morning, down 12%. Adam, your reaction?
Well, people aren't going into the store, and they're not going there because Target effectively broke its It lost the faith of the American people. If you remember, the LGBTQ merchandise really offended young mothers.
Wow.
And that's, I think, the issue. It's still haunting them.
Point. And they've been unable to get it back, down 12.75%. Congressman Andy Ogles, last word from you. An economy that is weakening as President Trump tries to figure out who his Treasury Secretary is going to be. You're on the Financial Services Committee. Who do you want to see Treasury Secretary?
You know, President Trump has an embarrassment of riches for the Treasury pick. You know, my senator from back home is someone who may be considered for that.
Bill Hagerty.
Senator Hagerty, that's right. And so, but again, there's a lot of great choices. And again, what you've seen is that President Trump has a vision for what he wants his administration to look like. And he's looking for those individuals who can implement and execute that vision. Because, look, it's going to be a short 4 years, and we've got to get it done.
Of course. All right. Thanks very much, Congressman. Good to see you. Andy Ogles joining us in D.C.